Hey folks, it's time for the quote of the day. And I talk about philosophy a lot on the quote of the day channel because I quote a lot of philosophers. It's something that I'm very interested in, just understanding different perspectives and worldviews and methodologies for learning about the human experience. But I'm not a scholar, and I want to make that very clear. I'm not somebody who I went to school for this or anything like that. It's just something that is an interest of mine, and I feel like sharing it. And so a lot of times I'll be talking about something that is somebody that is probably more formally educated would probably disagree with me or, rebut me in some way. And that's fine. That's totally acceptable. I completely and totally get that there is an academic viewpoint of the way things are meant to be taken, and then there is just the way that it resonates with me. And all I can do is convey how it resonates with me, at least at this point in time. Because I don't, I'm 50 years old and I'm broke, so I don't have the ability to go learn the other way. So I just have to take the words for how they mean to me. Now that being said, today is yet another philosopher of sorts, but a very special one in the sense of what he actually wrote. We're going to talk about him a little bit because I think that it's important because right now he is getting there's like a very small group of people, for whatever reason, that have decided to push back against his writing and what he brought to the table. Today, we are quoting the samurai Yamamoto Tsunetomo. Now, Tsunetomo was he wasn't just a samurai. He was born in 1659, I believe, or 1669, 1659. Let's just go with that. And he was very weak. He was actually the last child in his family, and his father had planned on giving him away to a salt merchant. That's how much he cared about him. And this is all very well documented, by the way. His father was like, "Yeah, I don't. Well, this is like, what do we need another kid for? This is superfluous. Like we don't need this kid. Like, we're gonna give him away. Get some salt out of it. Good deal, right?" Um, but he showed an aptitude at a very young age for writing and listening and understanding. So I guess I don't know if his mother fought for him or if his father saw some chance that he would be worth more. I don't know that part of the scenario, but I do know that he ended up going at the age of 9. He ended up going and being an apprentice for a man of letters in Japan, and became very very good at his job. And then there from that point on, even though he had been told that he wouldn't make it to the age of 20 because he was so sickly, he ended up going on and becoming a samurai. Now, that what samurai means, for depending upon where you were and who you were working with and things like that, different. But either way, they followed a simple code, and that code, as many of you should know, is the code of Bushido. Now, flash forward some years later, and he has given up being a samurai. Now he is a monk. He has he has stripped himself of the title samurai. He's no longer involved and has gone off to become a monk. Then you flash forward some time later, and he is essentially dictating what you hear about in not just today's quote of the day, but in his book that he ended up helping. I mean, he basically wrote it. Uh, that was transcribed by another samurai, a younger samurai, and he would go on. This would go on to become a book called Hagakure, which is it translates into either hidden leaves or in the shadow of leaves, but it went on to be called the Book of the Samurai. And this is a very important book for a lot of people because it kind of opened the door. Now, the book wasn't intended when he transcribed it, when recited it, or not recited it, but he what's the word I'm looking for? Dictated. I had to go. Actually, I had to stop and think about that. He dictated the book basically, and when he did that, it was actually for members of his clan, right? Like members of like other samurai. Like that's what the point of it was. And keep in mind, he was a monk at this point in time, so he was speaking from his years of experience and his particular understanding of Bushido. Now, I'm not really clear about, all of the details of it. I have read a good portion of it, but basically his stance on this, and this is important to understand, is that the code of Bushido basically uh, was to be lived in a way where you were already essentially planning to die. Like that was the point for him, was to live as if you are dead already. He believed that if you could kind of assimilate this way of thinking and this way of being, that you would reach a higher state of consciousness because you were no longer. It's almost like, the idea of detaching from earthly things. Well, level up, nerd, because we're going to detach from life itself, right? Like that's genuinely basically the story there, is if you can detach from the idea of being alive, if you can accept that you are going to die and therefore are dead already, then you can go to a higher level. You see the world in a different way. And I can tell you, as somebody who has come close to that, there is something to that. Once you walk through the doorway, maybe not all the way into the entryway, but you're in the doorway of death, you start to you start to see the world very differently, and you start to appreciate and accept very different things in your life and in the lives of the people around you. And I think that it is a beautiful idea. And again, I'm not a scholar on these things, but I think that there's something to be learned from this. I think there's something to be gained from this. And I think that if you have the time and the inclination and you don't mind reading rather bad translations, most of them, that picking up some aspect, whether it be in small snippets and quotes or actually getting the book itself, would probably help you. In the same way that meditations helps people, um, I think the Hagakure actually can help people understand, a perspective on life. And to, give you an example of that, I'm going to quote part of Hagakure. It's a little bit long, but just stay with me on this. Now, obviously, this is translated. This is not this is not how he wrote it, but this is essentially a translation paraphrase version of it. Yamamoto Tsunetomo once wrote something to the effect of, "All of us want to live, and that is absolutely natural. However, we should learn from childhood on to choose our best way to die. If we don't do that, we end up spending our days like a dog, only in search of harbor, food, and expressing a blind loyalty to his owner in return. That isn't enough to make our lives have a meaning." This is very important and powerful, powerful shit. We're going to talk about it in a second. Let me read it one more time. All of us want to live, and that is absolutely natural. However, we should learn from childhood on to choose our best way to die. If we don't do that, we end up spending our days like a dog, only in search of harbor, food, and expressing a blind loyalty to his owner in return. That isn't enough to make our lives have a meaning. Now, why do I choose this quote? It's kind of heavy, but I think that this idea is something that I've talked about in many different ways at many different times from many different voices. The idea that, so many people wake up, punch in, go to work, do the thing, come home, go to, do something with the kids, eat dinner, go to bed, get up, go to work, and then repeat the cycle. That's not life. That's not living. That's the exact opposite. You've decided that you're going to die already, and that's how you're going to die. And that's the point of what he's saying. Choose how you want to die, and then aim your life in that direction. Choose how you want to die, and then go in that direction. Because you're going to die no matter what. So choose the direction, choose how you want that to happen, and then move in a way that makes that happen. Not, the self destruction way, but in a way where you can live a life where you are not just showing up as a dog, working for someone else, being something for someone else. Be yourself. I don't know much about Yamamoto Tsunetomo, but I know that today is his birthday, and I know that he would appreciate this message. Take care of yourself. Take care of others. I'll talk to you soon.